For this list, we're going to do something a little different. Instead of looking at each pick and category individually, we're going to take them 2 by 2, picking each set from either end of a particular spectrum in the hopes of finding something in between. Because sometimes it's easier to trace a topic by its boundaries, and also because when you've been doing the same thing for 3 years, sometimes you gotta shake things up. These are our picks for the 10 best performances of all time. Let's start it off nice and simple to get our 2 by 2 bearings about us. For our first picks, we're looking at the most obvious axis of all, comedy to drama. From the absolute zaniest of silliness to the heart-wrenchingest of tragedy. From the legendary comic turns of Leslie Nielsen in Airplane, Jack Lemmon in Some Like It Hot, Eddie Murphy in Beverly Hills Cop, and Bill Murray in Groundhog Day, to the serious masterworks of Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood, Bette Davis in All About Eve, and Philip Seymour Hoffman in, everything. Ever. However, for our picks, we think you can slot pretty much anything between Steve Martin's Nevin and Meryl Streep's Sophie from The Jerk and Sophie's Choice.
God bless us. Everyone.
I need you. Like death. You hear me? Like death.
He hates these cans. Stay away from the cans.
Los entscheide dich, wähle.
Nein, zwingen Sie mich nicht zu wählen. Ich kann nicht wählen.
Ich schick Sie beide darüber.
Nicht wählen.
On a scale of patently absurd to life-ruiningly real, these two flicks pretty much make up the logical endpoints. Both absolutely incredible works by all-time greats at their best. One is a highly controlled study in voice, emotion, expression, subtlety, and suffering, while the other is a treatise on timing, incongruity, and staying just the right side of the line with histrionics. And to our eye, the main differences appear to be twofold: how deeply they commit to their role and how they appear to experience pain. Meryl Streep absolutely disappears into Sophie with some of the most honest, vulnerable, and chameleon-like work she has delivered to date, whereas Steve Martin's performance is more of a thinly veiled mask. And as far as pain goes, we watch Streep faced with probably the worst pain imaginable and see her appear to actually experience that torment, while Martin is either hysterically exaggerating his pain or totally oblivious to it. We might even combine these two factors into a single metric of comedy dramaticness, how genuinely an actor's performance manages to express pain, from Steve Martin to Meryl Streep to everyone else in the middle, showing us how actors manage one of the most human of emotions. For our next two slots, we want to look at the performances that actually inspired this list. Musing about the current Best Actor and Best Supporting Actress races, we were struck by both how incredible the competing roles in Fences and Manchester by the Sea were, and how incredibly different they still seem to be. They're both dramatic, both deeply affecting, both grapple with immense pain that really seems to get down to their cores. But Denzel's Troy is played nothing like Affleck's Lee, just like Williams' Randy is worlds from Davis's Rose. And upon a little reflection, one of the biggest differences here is what we might call the volume of their expression. Denzel and Viola fill the theater with their acting, projecting it to the back wall with full-fledged voice and physicalization, while you have to almost lean in and search for Affleck and Williams to betray what's really going on in every scene but one. Vince's acting is found in the swing of a bat, whereas Manchester's is in the bat of an eye. Take a look.
You're talking about Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson wasn't nobody.
I'm sorry, Lee. He passed away about an hour ago.
Oh.
I've been right here with you, Troy. I got a life too. I gave 18 years of my life to stand in the same spot as you.
I don't have anything big to say.
It's okay.
Now, do we really think two movies that came out last year are the capital B best versions of performances, both big and small? I mean, hell, instead of Denzel and Viola, we could have gone with Pacino in Dog Day Afternoon, Tom Cruise in Magnolia, or Lee J. Cobb in 12 Angry Men. And instead of Affleck and Williams, we could have picked Mary Tyler Moore in Ordinary People, Holly Hunter in The Piano, Mark Rylance in Bridge of Spies, or Emmanuel Riva in Amour. But if you haven't figured out by now that objective top 10s are the patently absurd lie we built our whole show on in order to try to show you interesting ways to look at movies we love, you're probably down there calling us names in the comment section already. So we're talking about Fences and Manchester by the Sea, okay? One has us awash in the emotion of the scene, while the other has a scrutinizing and impenetrable visage. And what it comes down to is the size of the choices. One has actors making choices that you can see from down the block, while the other, you need a map and a microscope to catch a trace. But good performances can do either, or both, as long as they get us some incredible characters onto the screen. Another big difference in acting comes from the approach to script. Some films and filmmakers allow their actors to deviate freely, while others demand an almost biblical adherence to the text. Some of the best improvisational performances, think Brando in Apocalypse Now, and Gosling and Williams in Blue Valentine, and Bill Murray in Caddyshack, tend to outline the conflict and goals and intentions of the actors while letting them sketch out the specifics of how that's going to take place. Whereas the best script-focused performances, like Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Basterds, and Jesse Eisenberg in The Social Network, Rosalind Russell in His Girl Friday, and Katharine Hepburn in Lion in Winter, lock in the words that the actors say while providing them room to play with what they really mean by those words, the subtext, as it were. And for our respective 5 and 6 picks, we think some of the best examples of either end belong to Brenda Blethyn in Secrets and Lies and Elizabeth Taylor in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Shifty-looking bleeder. Walks like a crab. Your tea's there.
Tough.
Do you want a sandwich?
And she walks into the modest living room of the modest cottage, modest Joseph Cotton set her up in.
Are they married?
Yes, they're married. To each other, Cluck.
Here are 2 examples of brilliant actors with wildly different source materials, both crafting deeply complex, nuanced, and affecting results. Blethyn's is a Mike Leigh performance at its best, known for outlining a rough scenario and then working with his actors to improvise it gradually into a final product, and a sort of acting that finds brilliance in even the small, banal words of the natural and everyday. But on the far other hand, we have the virtuoso Taylor wrestling with the highly precise language of Edward Albee. Her lines are razor sharp, and yet the way she wields them is somehow sharper. She managed to delve into the script to suss out all the complex layers put there by the playwright, and even add some that came from herself, and explore them inside each highly mannered syllable. It's the difference between performances that focus on innovation of the what and innovations of the how. Between the 2 of them, they span the entire realm of an actor's relationship to language, while also revealing that good performances can focus on it loosely or intently alike. Next up at number 4 and 3 respectively, we're looking at the scope of the role. From performances that glide along in easy terrain only to explode into a singular moment of brilliance to others that are perhaps most impressive when considered as a whole, shifting and turning and transforming internally to expose every possible facet of a single character. It's the difference between Peter Lorre in M and Keaton in Annie Hall, between Robert Shaw in Jaws and Jessica Chastain in Zero Dark 30, between Peter Finch in Network and Jacob Tremblay in Room. One set lets out a burst of depth like the breaking of a dam, while the other takes a long and varied journey down an ever-changing river. And for these picks, we're going with Ellen Burstyn in Requiem for a Dream and Bobby DeNiro in Raging Bull.
Though I'd rather hear you cheer when you delve one up.
Shut up! Shut up! I'll fucking take care of you later! Shut up!
What have I got, Harry? Why should I even make the bed or wash the dishes? I do them. But why should I? I'm alone.
This one's a little bit of a fudge because there's no denying both that De Niro's LaMotta has some incredibly explosive moments and that Ellen Burstyn transforms herself in her role, but their performances are each astonishing for different reasons. De Niro is not just a red-blooded hotshot LaMotta. He's a washed-up, sad shell of his own performance's former glory. Compare that to Burstyn's turn, which certainly tracks her falling into the depths of addiction, but it's at its best for just 3 short, real-time minutes in a simple close-up when she gives a monologue about the dream she holds onto in her loneliness. The comparative brilliance of these 2 performances is an excellent reminder about the acting craft. It can be about the forest or just individual trees. There is unforgettable work to be done at the macro and the micro scales. And finally, for our last couplet, we're looking at the spectrum of approaches to acting, of acting strategies, of methodologies, of methods, you might say. And one of these methods is the method. Now, when someone says method acting, it usually calls to mind the crazy, life-imitating art antics of overly publicized and underly hobbied actors who starve themselves and learn a new trade and send used prophylactics to their co-stars in an attempt to actually become the character. But the defining feature of method acting, as we're looking at it, is what we're going to refer to as representational acting, internal acting, inside-out acting, where an actor draws upon their imagination or experience or memory or preparation to create in themselves the emotional landscape of the character, in order that this emotion will of its own accord express itself in the actor's external performance. By thinking and wanting and feeling like the character, the actor will believably seem to behave like the character, as in performances like Jack Nicholson's in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Adrian Brody's in The Pianist, Daniel Day-Lewis's in My Left Foot, and Angelina Jolie's in Girl Interrupted. This is as opposed to presentational acting, of outside-in acting. This older style emphasizes nailing the externals of a performance, of getting the what it looks like to be right, in hopes that the emotional reality will spring from the physical reality. Faking it till you make it, smiling until you're happy, crying until you're sad. Most obvious examples here tend to be either a little older or a little more British. Bogart in Casablanca, Mitchum in Night of the Hunter, Ian McKellen in Lord of the Rings. However, for our final picks, we're giving it to Sir Laurence Olivier for Richard III and Marlon Brando for A Streetcar Named Desire.
I can add colors to the chameleon, change shapes with Proteus for advantages, and set the murderous Machiavel to school!
You must be Stanley. I'm Blanche.
Oh, you're still sister.
Yes.
Oh, hi. Yeah, where's the little woman?
I think there be 6 Richmonds in the field. 5 have I slain today instead of him. A horse!
Olivier's performance here is at the pinnacle of his work, himself a master of the classical method and skeptical of the method. On Marathon Man, when Dustin Hoffman complained about staying up for 3 nights in a row to prepare for a scene where his character was similarly sleep-deprived, Olivier famously replied, "My dear boy, why don't you just try acting?" And while in lesser hands his style might seem dated or affected, there is no denying its power and skill here. And then of course there's Brando. Student of Stanislavski's ideas by way of Adler, he burst under the spotlight with his smoldering Stanley Kowalski. Rough and unrefined and raw in all the ways Olivier and his contemporaries weren't. He was improvisational jazz compared to a classical concerto, allowing his instrument to express itself in whatever way felt natural in the moment, while Olivier danced virtuoso arpeggios up and down the carefully selected scale. They couldn't be better or more different, which is why they're our picks for the best performances of all time. So what do you think? Do you disagree with any of our picks? Did we leave out any of your favorite performances? Of course we did. Otherwise this video would have been like 8 hours long. Let us know in the comments below and be sure to subscribe for more CineFix movie lists.